First question is, you are a genius with poetry. Poetry is everywhere in your teaching. So why poetry? What's that give to you?
Poetry is the music of language, and it speaks in metaphor and in ways that touch us, obviously different circuitry.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a story. I'm not a poet, but I'm a poetry groupie.
Yeah.
So Pablo Neruda was reading at the National Hall in Caracas in Venezuela. This is Venezuela in a much better time than right now, I have to say, with some tears. Toward the end of his life, and it was filled with some thousands of people, and he was the great Latin poet. He read a while, and then he said, "Is there anything you want me to read?" Somebody said, "Yes, please read poem number 19 from 20 Love Songs and a Song of Despair," one of his many great works. He says, "No, I don't have it with me." 400 people stood up and recited it to him. That's a culture that loves poetry.
Yeah.
We could do it. Our culture doesn't do poetry. But if I said, all right, here's a Dylan song, remember he just got the Nobel Prize, you could recite it. I mean, so there's something about poetry that touches different dimension of our life, basically.
Yeah. Well, I'm really grateful for how wonderfully you weave poetry into the work. It's really remarkable. Second thing is, I want you to just reflect on a word that you started with, and I've been hearing in different places, which is mystery, and the relationship between mystery and these four qualities of the soul or the psyche. How do you think about that? How have you experienced that through the course of your life?
It's mysterious. It is. I mean, the thing is, one of the great Zen masters that I studied with, Daisen Sansanim, a Korean Zen master who came to, his main center was in Providence, but he has centers around the world. He would sit with us and he would say, "What is love? What is consciousness? Who are you really? What is light?" And he would go on with these questions, and then students who had the temerity to answer, not with a content answer, would say, "I don't know, really, because it is mysterious." Yeah. Like gravity, what is gravity? Well, there's equations for it, this attraction, but no one knows what it actually is. Yeah. It is. And then he would, after a while, he'd say, you don't know, you don't know. He said, meditation, keep don't know mind, only don't know, don't know. And if you sit with this quality of not knowing, and it's there in the Christian mystical tradition, and it happens to be there in a beautiful way in the scientific tradition, that there's something beyond what we normally see. We are much larger than that ourselves, and what we understand is limited. And beyond that is, I think it was Newton who said, it's like standing on the edge of the ocean of mystery.
So important to remember that. Final question, and we do want to make sure you have a chance to ask Jack questions or reflect on integrations with the science, some of the science you heard of happiness last night, and then Jack's reflections, which I thought had many important connections when we think about issues that we face, the role of the contemplative traditions in facing the social issues of the day, which is rising in these different movements, but always was there. I love this connection that you made between sadness and beauty. And when just to tell you a little story, I have a couple stories myself. When I was working on Inside Out, about 3 years into the movie, and Pete Docter is like Jack, he's this poetic genius of a director. He did Up. Inside Out, his next movie is going to be about the soul or something like that. And there was this crisis because they wanted to make the movie about fear, because fear is kind of funny and it's familiar, and he really wanted it to be about the beauty of sadness, which I think is what the movie was about, and the reason for its influence. But Sadness we kind of understand, loss is at the heart of things. Beauty that's a tricky one to figure out. Is it mathematical? Is it based on certain principles of harmony, etc.? Is it love? So how do you...
The Zen master pulls out the stick and says, too much thinking. Is it mathematical? Come on, Decker. But there's something, this is important in another way, because you're also asking about human suffering, which is part of what's given to us in human incarnation. And there's different kinds of suffering. There's the pain of just being alive, of getting bored or giving birth or dying or getting sick or getting older. You have a body, you have some pain. Then there's all the suffering that we layer on top of it out of our fear and confusion and greed and hatred, and we can see it worldwide. Some of that suffering is personal, and you have your traumas, which you want to be able to heal. But as you start to heal through these trainings and practices, there's a different kind of tears that come, which aren't about the fact that you were mistreated or that you suffered in that way, or what you've been through. They're called the tears of the way, and they're really the tears of tenderness that can look out and see both the magnificence of the world in all its amazing flowering, seeing all your faces and all the sensitivity and vulnerability and pains, and somehow it's the heart being open to hold all of that. And these are different kind of tears. Does this make sense to you? And it's almost as if, and I think in Japanese, there are some words that hold happy, sad as a compound, as a single word. And this is really the description of a wise and open heart in some way.
All right. We have a minute or two for...
Oh, we have 5 minutes.
Yeah, so come on up to the microphone.
We'll stretch
if you have,
it.
Jack says
then
we
we'll
got
push
5
the
minutes.
lunch back a few minutes. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, Jack. This is Lana. First of all, thank you so much for the powerful practice. So I want to ask a question that's work-related. Right now, it's performance review season.
Wait a second. Speak into the mic.
It's performance review season in organizations at
Right.
work. And it's a time when there truly is not a time of kindness or compassion or joy. And I'm just wondering, how do you bring that into organizations systematically and make it part of the culture? And I work at Google, and we have search inside yourself, but I haven't seen it systematically become part of the culture. So curious what your thoughts are.
It's a great question because we need feedback. That's how we grow. But feedback can be cast, as you know well, in different ways. It can be done in a sort of judgmental way, and people who don't have much emotional training or intelligence will do that, and then it triggers all kinds of conflict and so forth. Florida Scott Maxwell, the author, said, no matter how old a mother is, she looks to her middle-aged children for signs of improvement, right? And so there's the judgmental mind. There's another way to give feedback, which begins, there's a whole simple strategy first, asking them what do you think they did well, what they didn't, where do they think they could grow? So it comes from them rather than someone else. And then you say, hearing that, here are the things that I think would make a difference for you. And you see that secret beauty, you see that there are gifts there. If the person shouldn't be doing the job, you might have to say, I'm sorry, this isn't the right fit. But assuming that it's fit enough, there's a whole other way to approach it. And that could be built into the protocols, not just in how you treat your employees, and I'm in a conversation in Silicon Valley with how Google treats its billions of users as well. So thank you for that beautiful question.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. My question is how to bring these qualities to an era of social media, especially for young people.
Yeah. This is really a big challenge. And for those who don't know, it's Tristan Harris in the Center for Humane Technology, who's a colleague and friend I've been working with. He talks about a lot of the destructive things that have happened unintentionally by those who thought they were going to wire the world all for good. But then we see, whether it's in Burma or Sudan or places that, or even in this country, the hate speech and the fomenting of divisiveness. But we also see teenage girls looking at their phones and then posting and trying to fix their pictures and so forth. There's a kind of, the reports are a tremendous oppression, and then leading to that, a significant measurable increase in depression of teenagers, especially teenage girls. So we're doing all kinds of things as a social experiment, some of which are magnificently good and some of which are really pretty destructive. There's two different forces happening in Silicon Valley to respond to it. One is the kind of, okay, we better fix this or we're going to lose all our money, people, and lose our power. Honestly, we got to do something, but it's a more protective force, and it's okay. That's how human beings function. There is a whole other group of people I've been a part of, and a number of others, who are looking at ways to revision technology with both ethical principles and to make it really humane, whether it's the AI that's coming or whether it's in social media. And one of the things that we're trying to do, I showed you that book of Drawdown, which is sort of crowdsourced from 100 different people around the world, the most comprehensive plan to reverse global warming, not just to stop it, to reverse it. And it shows all the, after 100 different graduate schools and people around the world took each piece of it and said, here's what we think will contribute. They were all brought together to see what were the most effective. And at the top of the list of 100, just so you know, several steps above solar and wind, number one thing, if you combine two of these together, is the education and empowerment of girls and women. That would do more for global warming. And the top of the technological one isn't solar power or wind and so forth. It's the CFCs, it's the chlorofluorocarbon that work every ice cream maker and air conditioner in Jakarta and Buenos Aires and so forth. To draw that off and neutralize it would be more important than all the solar we can build. So there's this tremendous intelligence in this. And I'm part of a group that wants to do this for technology, that wants to crowdsource it to the experts in the world for a year and say, what are the 100 things that we can do to transform technology to humane technology? So I don't have an answer for you, but it's one of, like climate change, it's one of our big questions, and we really have to marshal our visionary capacities to do that. And now I'm afraid what do you think, Decker?
I think one more question, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's a very quick one, so I think that they might be able to ask one. So I just wanted to know from who is the first poem that you
The first
read?
poem was by Mark Nepo, and it's called Adrift.
Okay, thank you, because it really moved me, and I really wanted to
Yeah,
find
everything is beautiful, and I am so sad. And this is how the heart makes a duet of grief and wonder in this world. And that's you, that's us, really. And we get to move through this world in a way that brings understanding, compassion, and blessings when we're willing to be open and to do the very kinds of things that Dakkar's both research and science and the trainings that Greater Good offer. So thank you, Dakkar, and Emiliana, and to all of you. Thank you.